thousands, in the millions, and we will be. Because it starts right here.
Guilty.
Welcome to Naptown People's Radio. I'm your host, Danny Abdullah, and as a special treat today, I'm joined by my comrade, the producer of the show, and today's co-host,
Dakota Fronterhouse.
We're here to guide you through the pressing issues facing Indianapolis from the perspective of our people, not our oppressors. And as organizers involved in these issues, we're not just talking about the news, we're making it happen. So with Trans Day of Remembrance just around the corner on November 20th, this episode is dedicated to our trans siblings who have joined the ancestors too soon. We are going to be joined by Brooke. She's a volunteer at the Indy Liberation Center, and she's engaged in the struggle to remove cops from the Indy Pride celebration. So Brooke is going to be educating us on the history of Trans Day of Remembrance and the connection there is between this memorial event and the struggle to remove cops out of Pride and honoring our trans loved ones. But before we get into that, let's get into it with the Naptown Breakdown. So what do you got for us today, Dakota?
Well, in the last week, there has been a lot going on in Indianapolis and Indiana and the country as a whole, as I'm sure everybody knows. But let's jump into it because there's a lot to cover. So Attorney General Todd Rokita wants President Trump to send the National Guard to Indianapolis. This comes as a response to the longtime quote-unquote friend of the pod, Rick Snyder, who is the Indianapolis president of the Fraternal Order of Police, which, for anybody who doesn't know, is the largest police union in the entire world. After Rick Snyder, posted on X that 14 people were shot in Indy and 4 people were stabbed. If you've listened to us long enough now, you know that Joe Hogsett is also certainly not a friend of the pod. But for once, we will echo his response to Rokita in saying that deploying the National Guard will not make our streets any safer, but will stoke more fear into the hearts of Hoosiers. Keeping the Rokita ball rolling, he is suing IPS, or the Attorney General's office is suing IPS for refusing to work with ICE. IPS has policies that, in their words, frustrate ICE agents from detaining what they deem, also their words, illegal aliens in our schools. IPS's policies state that their employees don't need to let immigration officials into the schools unless there's a warrant, and they do not have to reveal any information about any student also unless there's a warrant. Trying to get ICE into our public schools is a two-pronged attack. For one, it's an attack on public schools, and for two, it's an attack on our immigrant community. They're trying to take kids away from schools now, and how would their parents even know? Just like the rampant Islamophobia we saw in the early 2000s, this is all fueling more xenophobia towards immigrants, especially Latin American immigrants, which leads us to our next tragic story. An immigrant woman, Maria Florinda Rios Perez, was shot and killed Wednesday at about 6:45 in the morning in Whitestown. She and her husband, Mauricio Velasquez, own a cleaning business and cleaned residential homes together. They double-checked the address of a new client before coming up with the keys to open the door. And he was fumbling the keys a bit, and she made an innocent comment about him losing his eyesight. And just about that moment, he was startled by a gunshot. Maria didn't even touch the door, and the resident of the home never opened the door or called out or anything. They shot her in the head through the front door. That investigation is still ongoing, but we'll talk more about that in a little bit. First American Nuclear, or FANCO for short, announced they are building a nuclear power plant in Indiana. They haven't stated where. It's going to be in Indiana. The nuclear power plant will be, quote unquote, safer than many other types of nuclear plants that came before, and it'll be using newer technology called small modular reactors, SMR for short. Now, even though this technology is new, there are only 3 SMRs in the whole world and none in the United States yet. And Indiana, like always, will be the testing grounds. All of nuclear disasters of the past came from water-cooled nuclear reactors, and SMRs are a lead bismuth-cooled reactor, and still there are issues at hand with these. For starters, not enough studies have been done on this technology to really deem it safe. And secondly, while nuclear energy is cheaper in the long run, it is extremely expensive in the upfront costs. Citizens Action Coalition Executive Director Kerwin Olson says they are not even close to being cost competitive with other fuel and technologies, not to mention that they are years away from even being commercially available, if they ever will be. They are not a solution to meeting the growing electric demand. And we agree. And, the CAC, the Citizens Action Coalition, they are a friend of the pod. So the cost will be inevitably put onto the taxpayers. And of course, the energy produced by them, like he said, won't even be available to us. On top of that, the citizens of Indiana will be working at the plant and living around it. So any health risks that fall into the working class, we'll be the ones who face the brunt of it. And most importantly, one of the things we always get at here is like, once again, we, the people, get no say in the matter. And then we get to bear the brunt of the entire situation. And then the billionaire class gets to profit off of it, right? Moving on, Governor Mike Braun is calling to redraw district lines, also known as gerrymandering. The Trump admin has been pushing many states to redraw district lines to get more Republican representatives. And just like we've seen before, Braun is answering that call. Citizens vote on who they want to be the representatives of the state. And as per the previous redistricting, Republicans are basically guaranteed 7 seats in Indiana, but they're shooting for 9 with the new proposed redistricting. And now the Attorney General, Todd Rokita, once again, he's the only one who can really push back against Braun here. But as we've already mentioned twice already in this episode, he's fairly pro-Trump. He's Republican, and he'll likely go along with Braun's plans here. And then Food Not Bombs, from anybody who doesn't know, they're a nonprofit organization that exists in many cities. And they have a simple aim, which is just to feed hungry people hot meals. They're good people. I've actually helped them deliver meals to people out on the streets here in Indianapolis. But they're nationwide, right? And the chapter in Fort Wayne is calling out Fort Wayne Police Department for camping out while hungry people are getting food and arresting anybody they see with a warrant. Sunday, November 1st, cops put Tyrone Hughes face down on the curb while handcuffing him. And even one officer had him pinned with his knee on his neck. Sergeant Jonathan Cutler says they targeted him because he had a few specific warrants, but one that we'd like to call special attention to, which is 4 counts of battery to a public official. Now, we tried looking into this, but we can't find specifics, but sounds to me like if he was defending himself against police before they charged him with battery against them, and almost like they're going after him with like a vendetta, and they're using that to charge him with a felony when he only had a misdemeanor charge before. And Food Not Bombs Fort Wayne says this is not the first. It's the second time in the last few weeks that the cops have pulled someone out of line and arrested them.
I mean, if this is your first episode, then this will come to a shock to you. But like, no one on this podcast likes the cops. So welcome. Like, not a shocker that cops, regardless of where they are attacking homeless people who are literally just trying to eat. Like, we have actual criminals who are like in the White House, who are like, in the governor's mansion right now.
Not just one of them.
Like, right. But yeah, okay, go for the like homeless person. Right.
While they're eating. Man, I'm not supposed to cuss on here. But like, what are we doing? My favorite homage of this podcast.
I'm not supposed to cuss on here. There's just so many things to cuss about.
We need a shirt that says I'm not supposed to cuss on here.
We should get a shirt. That'll be our first merch item. I'm not supposed to cuss on here. But there's, like you said in the beginning, there's just so many things happening, right? There's so many things happening in the country and the state, right? Like it's, and I'm super grateful for the Naptown Breakdown because there's so many things happening, and it's hard for working class people to like try to stay on top of all of the different things that are happening. And so I think the Naptown Breakdown is super helpful in that. But like the tragedy that happened with Miss Perez, in Whitestown, is getting like national attention right now, which is, I feel like Indiana is never in the news for good things, unfortunately. But and especially with that documentary that just came out, I can't remember what it's called, but like The Good Neighbor or something, right? Like essentially like a very similar situation, except that was a Black woman. Not that it really matters, but like going to somebody's door, getting shot through the door, killed on impact, right? And just like, what a tragedy, right? Like, I mean, there's no other words to describe that. Like, as a parent, as a human being, of course, but like she had children. Like, I remember seeing this picture of her funeral and her daughter holding onto her casket.
Mm-hmm. They have 4 kids. One of them's like 1 year old.
Oh God, I didn't know that was a 1-year-old.
It's awful. Yeah.
I saw the 15-year-old holding I saw the 15-year-old and I saw there was one kid to the side, but I didn't know there was a literal baby. And this is a product of like partially like mainstream media, right? Like obviously there are trash people, right? Obviously this person who shot Maria is trash, like there is no wiggle room around that. Like you're trash. But just like, this is also a product of mainstream media and like people, I'm not supposed to cuss on here, people eating that, right? Like eating that stuff up of like, that this is the enemy. Like this is what your enemy looks like. And in reality, your enemy doesn't look like a woman and her husband just trying to like make a living. And actually,
in fact, it looks cute to me.
Right? Like
husband
that's
and wife,
like,
they have their own business.
That's so cute. Like that's so cute that they like got to work together and got to be together all the time. I love my husband. I don't know if I could work with him, but like, but I think that's like these people are not, Maria was not their enemy. I wish I didn't know her name, like I wish she was still out here just like living her life and able to just make a simple mistake and as anybody should be able to do. Like, also, it's just never occurred to me that if somebody accidentally knocks on my door to shoot them.
No.
Wild.
There. I mean, quick break here. I mean, I told you this story a month ago or something, like, and this is, to tell everybody else in the pod, like, I was having, a band practice, and then like I come upstairs and there was a random man in my house, like cooking food.
Black man. Also,
yeah, he's a black man.
I feel like that's relevant.
That's important.
In this situation.
I'm a white man, and there's a black man in my kitchen, like cooking my food, and like I was like, "What are you doing?" I was really thrown off, honestly. I mean, it's a funny story to look back now, but I was just like, "What are you doing here?" And he like mumbled around, and he said he was like, he just got out of the hospital, and I was like, "Dude, get out of here," and I kicked him out, but I wasn't violent, I didn't, my first instinct wasn't, let's go get a weapon and like harm this guy and by the way, he didn't take a thing from me. He just cooked up. So, I mean, technically, I guess he took some of my food. I mean, if he would have asked, I'd have been like, yeah, I can give you some food. If he'd have knocked on my door and like not surprised me by being in my house, but that, like, that's never my instinct either,
Yeah.
I actually can't, like, I think about that a lot. It's really hard for me to think about that, like, and how just propagandized the American people are. Mm-hmm. A lot of us, not all of us, obviously. Most of us have really good hearts, but like so many people are just like so lost in the sauce that they're just like eager and almost itching to like hurt somebody,
For sure. And I mean, and to what end also, right? Like, and I think that's a good point of like being propagandized and like fear that has been instilled in a lot of people. And I agree. I think most people, and this is unfortunately a hot take right now, but like I think most people are like are like good people, and if I didn't feel that way, I wouldn't do the work that I do,
Right.
like politically, but also just like, I'm a therapist, right? I feel like people have the ability to, like, at our core, want to improve and change and all these things.
Right.
Again, I don't have a lot of wiggle room for this person who killed, Maria, but like on the whole, I think people are good, except for, Todd Rokita. Except for Todd Rokita. That is somebody who is also trash. Like, your name got brought up. I don't even know how many times
Brother.
you said Todd Rokita's name. I almost did cuss just then. Like, I almost didn't catch myself. But like, yeah, Todd Rokita, what are you doing?
But we don't think anything violent should happen to him either,
No, I don't think.
And that's the important thing, I think. This podcast is not supposed to be super long, so I'm not going to get into this. But you and I know this. But like to just say it to the listeners, is just like, that's a huge difference between anybody who has really right wing political views or anybody who has socialist views. Is like, regardless of how trash somebody is, we don't think that they should be subjected to violence.
Yeah.
We think they should all have the same human rights we all have.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't think that people should be able to profit off of suffering. That's really the huge difference.
I believe in the actuality of revolution, and whatever happens. But like, no, I don't think that anything. I don't think
people should be punished, right?
People should absolutely be punished.
Yeah,
and that
if you
doesn't
shoot someone through your door, like,
yeah, I'm
trying not to cuss now too, but like,
yeah, something should absolutely happen, right? Like
maybe not something violent, but like, you need to go to camp, some special camp where you're taught, like, hey, maybe don't do that. Yeah, for sure. Maybe you can't really rejoin society if you can't really get past that fact.
For sure. Yeah. Like, no, that's legit, right? Like, we're not, I think that maybe should be a whole other episode of like understanding the difference between, like, when we say we're like abolish, the cops, it's not necessarily like, yeah, it's a free for all after that, right? Like, there still should be like punishment for like you did something wrong.
And abolish cops like as they are, right?
Absolutely.
They serve the state and they serve the billionaire class. Mm-hmm. But if we had cops that served us, it would just look different. They wouldn't be like, you can look up tons of videos of cops in like China, for instance, where they're not going around carrying guns on them, and they're just like chilling with the people, and the people, like, you can see genuinely love having their presence there, like they're dancing together or they're hanging out together or like whatever.
Yeah.
I just was on a plane not long ago, and like we stopped we were in Florida. The cops at the airport, at least in the airport in Florida, all stood around with AR-15s.
Oh.
There were multiple of them just standing by the door holding these assault rifles. And I was like, wow.
Why?
Is this how Florida does it? Jeez.
What is happening in Florida?
Like, I don't feel safe.
Exactly. That doesn't feel safe at all.
They don't make me feel protected from other people. No. They make me feel unsafe around them.
Yeah, for sure. We have a comrade, Eli, who is does not live in Indianapolis anymore. But I remember him telling this story of like when he was in Cuba, and like there was an incident on the bus, and like the cop was talking to the bus driver, and a man who just like was nosy, because people are nosy, like wanted to know what was happening on the bus, and like put his arm on the cop to listen in. And like, which is such a like,
and Eli seeing this being like, whoa,
like, I mean, like that doesn't even seem like that. You say that and it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but like, I can't even imagine that here. Doesn't matter what your color is. I can't imagine anyone leaning on a cop. And
even me as a white man, if I get pulled over by the cops, I'm 10 and 2,
Yeah.
Like, I'm like,
absolutely.
And I already have my wallet and my registration out before they get there. I'm like, I'm not going to be fumbling.
Yeah.
I mean, for one, I'm sure they already have tabs on me, because I'm a socialist. But like for two, like probably. even before I was even affiliated with the party or anything, like I was just like, I'm going to play it safe every time, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, I mean, bullets don't know color. So,
but yeah, that's, we don't want to like let you guys off with only talking about bad things happening, That was just like kind of the start of it. We want to get into it. Just a few good things that are happening around Indianapolis, in the country, and maybe not even good, but just like, positive responses, right? Like this first one I want to get into is the Indiana Muslim Community Association here in Indianapolis. Ever since, the Trump administration is like, they kind of pump the brakes on SNAP benefits for people a little bit.
Pump the brakes is a nice way to put that. Okay. Yeah.
Well, they let a little bit through, but only because of like a court order or whatever. But the Indiana Muslim Community Association, they do food handouts. Like I think it's one Saturday out of the month, if I'm reading this right. But ever since these SNAP cuts, they're doing it every Saturday of the month. So I wanted to draw attention to that. We want to highlight anything good that we can here. And they give food at, pardon my if I mispronounce any of this, but it's the Masjid Al Fajr. That's at 2846 Cold Spring Road. But yeah. Huh?
Masjid.
Yeah. See, I only know English, and like that I blame on the American.
My husband was born Muslim, so I have
really?
a little bit of an advantage. Nice. Yeah, Abdullah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So I have a small advantage there.
Never thought about it, but if you or anybody needs food on Saturdays, they're doing that, and then of course Food Not Bombs does their thing on Sundays, like we said. Another positive thing is the Cultural Arts District is expanding in Garfield Park. 3 new art-focused businesses will open. Harlot Apothecary, Super Real Much, and we don't know the name yet, but a popular food and drink vendor at Garfield Park Farmers Market is opening a brick-and-mortar store. Harlot Apothecary, they sell affordable art supplies and will have art from local artists available for purchase. Super Real Much aims to sell affordable vintage and secondhand clothing, accessories, and home goods. And the unnamed Garfield Park Farmers Market vendor is just keeping a lot of the details under wraps for now, but they aim to open in December. And the other thing we want to draw attention to quickly, and I say quickly because it's like that's me giving myself a mental note not to really dive into things. But Zoran Mamdani, he won the mayor's office in New York City. And this is, I know this is New York City news, but it's, it's really good news for every American city and state. And even the entire world is like watching this, right? And the fact that an open socialist can win any campaign, nevertheless, the mayor of New York City shows that the people are gearing up more and more for socialism every day. Zoran is part of DSA, and just like our local city county councilor, Jesse Brown, who he was on our second or third episode. Jesse wrote a few essays on Mamdani's potential win, and now that it's been actualized, just wanted to highlight a few key points raised by Jesse. And as I already stated, a socialist politician in a capitalist system doesn't just randomly win. They win because they have mass support of working class people. Another point to bring up, this is just the beginning, right? A socialist politician is not the same as socialism itself. There's work to do. But as Jesse points out, the work will be done by the working class people, just as the working class people were the ones who did the work to promote him and then did the work by showing up. It was record turnout for New York City. I think it was I was reading, it was 1963 was the last time they had this big of a turnout, over 1 million people. But, and then the other kind of key point I want to bring up here is just a socialist mayor. They will help educate and guide people, but ultimately the people decide what they want. And, kind of what we're getting at there is just electoral politics is not the end all be all of what, any political ideology should ever rely on. Right. So it's but that's just one sliver. And it's just kind of where we are seeing where the people are at. And if the people can actually get up and show out, and Andrew Cuomo had billions of dollars poured into his campaign and Trump flew out there and he was supporting him, and and the people were still absolutely not, we do not want this guy. And then people were overwhelmingly voted for Zoran. They're absolutely, we want that. We don't sit here as members of the PSL and be oh great, we can just vote in socialist everywhere and then that's how we win. No, we just see that and we go, the people said what they want. And what they want is socialism, or at least, they see that the capitalist system is not working. It's crumbling. It's failing them. Red or blue doesn't matter.
And there are people who do feel like you can vote in socialism, and not today. We're not going to get into the differences there, but like, right, us in the party, we don't believe that to be true, and that hasn't been true anywhere in any country. But yeah, I'm glad that we're ending on that note, because like things are things are like really sad right now, and like that it's really good to like hear, yeah, Trump is being Trump, but like the people show up for each other, right? Like Muslim groups are showing up to give out food, anarchists are showing up to give out food, right? And if you know anything about the socialist versus anarchist like debate, like that stuff doesn't even matter. Like it doesn't matter. Like on this podcast, we're never gonna be like, we're not gonna get into that, because at the end of the day, if you're showing up for the people, like that's what matters. Like that's actually what matters, and that's all that matters, is like taking care of each other and making sure that the power is with the people. And that's how the power stays with the people, right? Is showing up for each other and making sure that we're taking care of our neighbors and our loved ones. And doesn't matter if you know each other or not, like just showing up for one another. And like, Mamdani like winning is such a big deal. And I'm so glad that you put in there, like, that is not, him getting voted in there is not like socialism necessarily, but like the people coming together and like, this is what we want, and working together to make those changes, working with Mamdani, right, to make those changes happen. Like Mamdani doesn't have power by himself, right? Like it's the people, like, this is what we want, and holding him accountable also, right? Like making sure that he actually does what he says he's going to do.
Yeah. If he doesn't hold true to his promises, like, put his feet to the fire.
Absolutely. And it's such a nice reminder, because we have comrades who are running in multiple parts of the country right now. Like we got Andre Easton also in New York, and we have Gregory Levy in Ohio, which, like, yes, Midwest, let's go. Megan Adams in California, Frank Lara in California, Ramsey Robinson in California, Alice Steck in California, Layla Vargas in California, Joe Taché in Massachusetts, Jasmine Brown in Florida, which, like, running for office as a socialist in the South, like, I'm hype about that. I'm like so excited about that, and to see how that goes. But like the people are ready.
People are ready, and the ruling class is like, they're in like fight mode, right? Like,
absolutely.
Like Trump is like, oh, not Zoran Mondami, and then what's that guy, Kevin O'Leary from like Shark Tank? He was like, yeah, he won't answer my calls. I've been trying to call him and talk to him about what he's going to do, and like, good, don't. And and this isn't new to America. Socialism may have never been an implemented like economic system that we had, or ideology, but it's not new. And like, I forget the exact quote now, but like Zoran Mamdani quoted Eugene Debs in his like victory speech. And like Eugene Debs, for anybody who doesn't know, he was from Indiana. He was from Terre Haute. And in the 30s, maybe it was 36, he was he ran for president like 4 or 5 times, but like he got the most votes than any other socialist running for president in history, and he did it while he was in prison, and he was in prison because he was a socialist, right? So like socialism is not a new concept for America. It's been suppressed heavily, obviously, for ever since it was implemented over in Eastern Europe. They were like, we need to stamp this out here, and they really stamped it out hard in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and like now it's like it's starting to like peak back up. Everybody's like voting for Zoran Mamdani and all these other people that you just mentioned across the whole nation, which is like, and people are coming out in mass waves to different protests. Once we just marry these kind of things together, mass movements and like socialist ideology, we could see a very different and more positive, bright, beautiful future for all of us here in the next, I hope, year. But it might be another decade or two. You know.
I mean, we both have kids. Our kids are friends. But
yeah, they go to the same school.
They do. But I would love for, which I'm sure I know our people who came before us also wanted that for us. I would love for us to be able to fight that and not my children. I would love for my kids to be able to reap the benefits of here is socialism. And they just live in a world where a world, not even just a country, but a world where it is socialism.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah, but it could be 10, 20 years. We're gunning for before that, but we are
revolutionary optimists.
Absolutely.
We can't give you an exact date, but we hope it's a year. No.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So that is it for the Naptown Breakdown. We will be right back with Brooke.
There is not a single constitutional protection for someone who's transgendered. Now, that could sound like I'm talking about legislature. I'm not. It's like I have no rights.
Darling, I want my gay rights now. I think it's about time the gay brothers and sisters got their rights, and especially the women.
And we're back with Naptown People's Radio. So we are joined here with Brooke. As I said before, Brooke is a volunteer with the Indie Liberation Center. She is also a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. But I can give it to you, Brooke, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit before we get into the interview.
Okay, so I'm Brooke. I'm a fairly new member and volunteer with the Indie Liberation Center and the PSL. I've been involved in a few campaigns. One of the bigger ones I did was our Cops Out of Pride. We had a town hall. We put on a very successful drag show as well. And just being involved in that struggle, I think that's going to be a yearly struggle for us.
Yeah.
For the Indie Liberation Center, for the PSL.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for context, Indianapolis, the PSL, we were able to get Cops Out of Pride back in, I want to say 2018, I want to say it was. And then after COVID, they were back. They showed back up. So, which is, unfortunate. Especially if you know the history of Pride. It's always just very ironic to see the cops there. But Brooke, you're here specifically to kind of talk about Cops Out of Pride, but also Trans Day of Remembrance as well. So just for listeners who maybe don't know what Trans Day of Remembrance is, can you just give us some background on what is that?
Yeah, so Trans Day of Remembrance honors transgender people who have been murdered as a result of transphobic violence. And the reason why that day exists, in 2024 alone, 350 trans people were murdered. 1/3 of them were under the age of 25. I also consider suicide rates in that too. So about 80% of transgendered people have considered suicide, 40% have attempted. And you have to keep in mind that these numbers are what has been available to us to be reported. There's countless missing people.
Yeah.
There's, transgendered folk are often considered the less dead, you know what I mean? Where those numbers aren't even reported at all because it's just to the powers that be that need to have that data. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to them. So those numbers are probably much more in reality. If we had accurate data, accurate reporting, we'd probably see a lot higher numbers too.
Under 25 is first off wild. Your brain's not done cooking until 25, right? And to not be here before you even hit that milestone is wild. Every year when I go to Trans Day of Remembrance. Last year was the first time I haven't gone in years. And I was like sick, so I couldn't go. But there's always at least like one or two who are just kids also. Which, as someone who has, first off, just like as a human being, that hits me. As a parent, that hits me. I have little cousins who, I guess they're not little anymore, but I have little cousins who are trans. And the idea of them not being here because of something they can't help, something that, like, it goes back. Earlier we were talking about Maria Perez, who was shot through the door because she went to the wrong house and she was just trying to do her job, trying to like clean. Just like to not be here for BS reasons is really unfathomable, to think about. And forgive me if you're going to touch on it. I know that Trans Day of Remembrance came from a woman, a trans woman, a trans Black woman was murdered, I believe in her home in like 1998. Do I remember that correctly? I don't know if you were going to touch on that, but which, like, of course it was a trans Black woman, but it's something that is like necessary. And I know I think the people who like came up with and decided to start Trans Day of Remembrance, people like were starting to forget her, right? Like couldn't even remember like 3 years later that like, oh yeah, that did happen, and like memories fade, but like to be murdered and to be murdered in such a way and people to not even remember your name, or maybe they remember your name but it's your dead name, or like things like that is horrendous. So what do you feel like today, and this can be related to even 1998 and beyond, but like what do you feel like is the significance of Trans Day of Remembrance today, especially? I don't want to lead you. I sound like a therapist now. But what is the significance of that?
I think it's the fact that history is still repeating over and over and over again. The amount of transgendered deaths and suicide is not going down. It's going up. And history just repeats. And like you said, people are like forgotten, names are forgotten. And I think that is because it's a bullet train of tragedy. And I often think, what would those numbers look like if we didn't live under capitalism? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If people had housing, if education was free, healthcare was free, accessible, we had a polyclinic in every neighborhood with a doctor, a social worker, an OB, somebody to help find you housing in every single clinic. Like, what would that look like? What would those numbers look like? I think about that a lot.
I think, well, one, with the continued attack on trans people today, right? Which is like, how did you word that? The bullet train of, what did you call it?
I forget. It's a bullet train of tragedy. It's a bullet train of, a loss of life that never needed to be lost.
Absolutely.
And it's in the hundreds and it's climbing. You know what I mean? Every year it's more. Yeah.
And like, this is, quote unquote, just to like reported murder, but like, a lack of healthcare is also murder also, right?
Yeah.
We have Braun who
that's
is
violence.
Yeah. We have Braun who's defunding Eskenazi Hospital, which like, oh my God, out of all the hospitals, you're defunding the county hospital, where like the poor people go. $38 million they're losing. And Eskenazi like has a clinic for trans people, right? Yeah. Like you are actively trying to kill and succeeding, killing trans people,
Yeah. A lot of people think of violence as, a violent murder or, something, very bold and very loud, but like what violence is like starving people to death too, and like shutting down their hospitals and shutting down their care, or putting their VA benefits on the line. Yeah, you know, a lot of we see so I believe that the statistics, and this might be wrong, but the transgendered community make up 1 or 2% of our population. But within that population, a lot of them are service members. You know, in the VA, their access to healthcare, their access to benefits, dangling that on the line is violence. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's slow death. It's a slow death. Absolutely. You know? Absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, like, that's, you know, that to get into like intersectionality as well, or like taking away like Medicaid, taking away SNAP benefits, is obviously killing all of us because we're all connected. But like, you know, who like poor trans people, like that's also killing them as well, right? Like there's so many layers to the violence that is happening, and that's not even to get into like, you know, ICE as well, right? Like believe it or not, like immigrants can be trans, right? Yeah. So yeah, there's so much happening here. I want to like Rita Hester, which Rita Hester is the Black woman who was killed, and her loved ones started Trans Day of Remembrance for her, essentially, you know, not just for her, but because of her murder. How, you know, she was murdered. I can't remember the exact number, but she was stabbed multiple times. And to this day, they don't know, quote unquote, they don't know who killed her, right? Which is a story that a lot of trans women have. Yeah. Specifically, trans women are murdered, and so for some reason, cops can never figure out who killed her, who killed them, you know? And so how do you feel like Trans Day of Remembrance and the removal of cops and Pride, how does that connect?
So that is a really interesting question, because it goes into Marsha P. Johnson's history. She died the same way. Yeah. You know, found in a river. We don't know who did it. Very highly suspected that it was a policeman, you know, ultimately. But how it ties into cops out of Pride, that was the question, right? Or the struggle. So Pride was a riot. So Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia, they had a 3-day standoff with the cops in 1969, I believe. And I mean, they gave it all they got. They uprooted a parking meter out the ground. They threw bricks. They, you know, they caught hands. They threw hands. You know, they gave it all they got, and they were able to beat back the cops. And how that transpired. So back in the day, in order to have a safe third space in the LGBTQ trans community, you had to pay the mafia, right, to keep the cops away. And they did pay, but the cops showed up anyways. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they just had enough. They're like, I don't want to have to pay the mafia to keep the cops away, but also like to not beat us up. You know what I mean? They're like, I'm just done. I just want to exist. And it became a riot. I don't think that people are aware that while that was 3 days in 1969, Indianapolis had a 6-week riot in the 80s against the cops. That one was called Gay Nights. So same thing, you know, same issues. Police brutality against the gay and trans community, unsolved murders. The cops were not trying to solve these murders, and people just had enough, and they banded together for 6 weeks at Monument Circle. And this was the 80s. This was not 50 years ago. You know what I mean? Yeah. And while they were together in this space, they taught each other how to register to vote, how to find resources, safety plans revolving around how to stand up against the cops, you know, what I mean? And it caused such a stink, essentially, that the mayor at the time, I believe it was Hugnut, he had to release
what a
statement.
name.
I know.
What a name.
I know.
Oh my God.
I know. He had to like release a statement telling the cops to back off. You know what I
Wow.
mean? And to stop beating people, stop brutalizing people, stop outing people. Because that's what the main source of violence was at the time, was outing people. You could lose your job, you could lose your housing, you could lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what started our pride in Indiana.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Stonewall happened in 1969. Indianapolis is like, we're not going to take this anymore, happened in the 80s. And that wasn't even 50 years ago.
No.
So when we're having these conversations with the Pride Committee and we're talking to people about the importance of keeping cops out of Pride, it's really like, don't forget our history, because the cops that were beating our asses in the 80s are probably still on the force.
Absolutely.
Like they very well could still be there.
Yeah.
You know, so don't forget, and don't let those cops come to Pride in a wrapped Pride flag cop car, you know.
Oh my gosh, you don't like that? You don't like
No.
when they have like the cop car is rainbow and then like they have the little rainbow sticker? You don't like that? You don't enjoy
No,
that?
it's not, you know, there's not even a time and a place for it. It's like, we're just not falling for it anymore. You know what I mean? We're not going to fall for it anymore. And I think why people do, especially with this concept that we ran into of, well, the cops that we have run in our events are vetted, right? We heard that a lot.
Yes.
They're also gay and they're vetted. You know what I mean? And that's we've talked about this, the Gay Faces in High Places campaign, you know, but at the end of the day, so House Bill 1041 specifically targets trans women, says nothing about trans men. So with this belief that these cops have been vetted, they're cool because they're also gay, who's going to drag those kids off the soccer field? You know what I mean? Are the gay cops going to clock out and be like, oh, I got to go on lunch, I can't make that call? Like, no, they're going to do their jobs.
Yeah, for sure.
They're going to drag those kids. Mm-hmm. If the kids resist, they're going to brutalize those kids. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's it's a fallacy. It's searching for comfort. It's knowing that like the cops don't have the trans community back and the gay community back. But if I have a friend there, maybe it'll make it easier and better for someone else. Like, no, they're still going to drag those kids off the field.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. With full immunity, no accountability.
Yeah. And I mean, there's always been class traitors, right? Like, I mean, gay people being cops, first off, is wild. I mean, I feel the same way when I see like Black people who are cops. I'm like, what are we doing? Or Hispanic people who are cops. I'm like, what's happening here? But like, yeah, that doesn't matter, right? Like, there were Black people who owned slaves. Like, what are we talking about? Like, that doesn't mean that just because they are, you know, part of the community, which they are, right? Like, I'm not saying you're not actually a lesbian, right? But like, you're a cop. Like, that's okay. That, like you said, like they're not going to be able to differentiate that. They have already chosen their side, mm-hmm. and they've chosen the side of the oppressor.
Yeah, right? They're an extension of the oppressor.
Absolutely.
And I still think it's comfort seeking, believing that, well, this person that like might look like me or grew up like me, has the same background or ethnicity, sexual orientation, what have you, as me. If they're like me, they must have the same moral line as I do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the fallacy. It's like, that is not true. That is not true. They're going to sell you out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if they're going to, you know, have to uphold the law with a kid trying to play a sport, where's the line? Really, honestly, where is the line? Because then it's going to be bathrooms. Well, then it's going to be something else. And then it's going to be something else. And the threat is just going to grow, and they're going to like act like they are sad about collecting their paycheck. But at the end of the day, they're gonna take that check and be paid, and
absolutely.
and they get paid a lot of money.
Yeah, they do.
For a lot of
especially in
bullshit.
Indianapolis, right? Like starting pay for IMPD is like 72 something, right? I can't remember the exact number, but it's like 72 something, that like $72,000 for you to like harm people.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's essentially what you all do. You like,
Yeah.
God, I'm not supposed to cuss on here. But like, you know, like you mess around all day and like you don't actually do anything other than apparently arrest homeless people and not find, you know, the murderers for trans women and trans men and just trans people in general, and arrest trans children. Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what you do.
So just speaking of this, you know, gay faces in high places, brown faces in high places, anybody that's still like rolling their eyes at the concept that they're the gay cop that they know, or the Hispanic black cop that they know, their friend cop that they know, like, well, I know them, so they must like be okay. Look them up on Mask Off 12.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead and look them
what
up
a great point.
and
Yeah,
gladly
absolutely.
report back to me what you
Absolutely.
find.
Yeah.
Gladly report back, because
Absolutely.
that website is out there.
Yeah. Mask Off 12 is a great tool. We've talked about Mask Off 12 on here before, but yeah, that's a great tool to use. And black faces in high places, gay faces in high places, like none of that actually like matters, right? Like none of that actually matters. And like, I don't know if it would have mattered for Rita Hester if like the cop who came to the crime scene was black, or gay, right? Like, would that have mattered? No, because you are answering to this system, and this system doesn't care about trans people. For Marsha P. Johnson, like, people know who killed Marsha P. Johnson. Like, there's no way that people don't know who killed Marsha P. Johnson, but like, because it doesn't benefit the system, it's never going to be on paper, right? Especially if it's a cop.
Yeah. And the system definitely, it's interesting to bring that up, because how does the system benefit who, and the strong arms to protect it? How does it benefit the strong arms? I put this down in my notes. You have to think about like, so it's going into this concept of like, how does it protect them, right? And they have full immunity. It's really, I don't think that Indiana has ever successfully charged a police officer with anything.
No.
You know, they have, it's, if you think about it, if you look at the history, you go through the history, this is a pretty dangerous state to live in, to be on like the losing side of a police officer.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
it's pretty dangerous. So how does the system like protect the strong arm of the law? Well, how do you like go from having a full career of oppressing people to being like tech support? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like a normal civilian job. They don't do that. They don't go there.
Yeah.
They don't become social workers. I haven't seen it. I hire social workers. I hire, you know, care coordinators. I don't see people like that applying for these jobs.
I actually do know one.
You
I
do know
actually do
one?
know one cop who became a social worker, but she now works at the jail again. But she's on the suicide team. But I do know one. Yes, it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
I will say.
The closest I've seen is people that went for it, maybe having an idea of what a police officer is and does, and they were like, nope, and got right back out. They're like,
Yeah.
not me. I'm
Yeah.
not doing that.
Yeah.
You know,
And like, if you have a conversation with her, and I have had multiple conversations with her, she's like, yeah, some of them are, I can't cuss on here, so I can't exactly quote, but like, she's like, yeah, some of them are like horrible people.
Yeah.
Right? Like, absolutely. Like, and she's very candid about that, which is one of the reasons why she works at the Justice Campus, because she partially wants to help the people who are incarcerated, you know,
yeah.
to protect from that.
Yeah. So you don't really see them leaving that career. So how does the system like protect them when their ass is on the line? You know what I mean? Because the system can't look bad by them, right? They have an image to protect. So their image is the system's image, basically. And if they are doing something dishonorable, for example, what happened with Jada Trainer, the police officer that brutalized her was not fired for brutalizing her. He was fired for a HIPAA violation, right? Of taking a picture of somebody in a hospital who was unwell and sending it to his girlfriend to laugh at them. Isn't that why he was fired?
Yes, that is why he was fired. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't because he.
Yeah. Wasn't because he like
laid hands on Jada and brutalized her. It was because he did a HIPAA violation, and that's pretty blunt. You know, that's pretty cut and dry. But what happened also, like, to him? Beating somebody up would be cut and dry. Or anything, like catch him anything, right? Yeah. So the system protected him because he just turned around and became an ICE agent. Yeah. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And that's like the dynamic that you'll see is if their ass really is on the line, well, they're not going to like spend their free time ringing the Salvation Army bell. You know what I mean? They're not going to spend their free time like volunteering. They're going to turn around and find something violent to do with even more immunity. You know what I mean? Even more violent. You know, they're going to up it. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Which I think is like it's a good point, and one that I wanted to bring up is like, you know, how all of our struggles are connected, right? Like, it's not just like, this is not just a trans issue, right? Like police violence and their lack of actually protecting and serving is not just a trans issue, right? It's not just a Black issue. It's not just an immigrant issue, right? It's like, you know, Dakota during the Naptown Breakdown was talking about like, you know, even as a white man, and, you know, some listeners have never seen Dakota, but Dakota is very white, is a very white man, and long hair. Actually, that might not work out for him. They might hate that more. But like, even he is like, yeah, cops pull me over. I'm on 10 and 2. I've got all my stuff out. Like, cops don't like poor white people either, right? Like, the only color that they care about is green. You know, like, who is paying them, whether that's their paycheck or under the table. But like, all of our struggles are connected, you know, which is the biggest thing, and which is what we try to like kind of hone in here on NPR. But like, it's not just a trans thing. It's not just about pride. It's not just about immigration. It's not just about homelessness, right? Like, it's about everybody. And the cops upholding this system that is against us, right? Yeah, because who really upholds it? Especially like, if the struggles are all connected, and you will see as things escalate, especially with Todd Rokita, him suing IPS to let ICE into schools. Who's going to make that happen? Who's going to make that possible for them? Because if ICE could get in there, they'd been in there, you know, getting the teachers and the staff and a couple students on the way, but they couldn't. They need help. Who's going to help them get in there? And are your gay cops going to call in sick? Are your brown cops going to call in sick? The women? No, they're not. They're going to do their jobs. They're going to do their jobs. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, and I know we've touched on this before, and we had Lucas on the show recently, talking about his work, you know, as a veteran. But like, you know, I know a question that sometimes comes up is like, for the PSL, like, okay, we don't work with the cops, but we'll work with veterans for sure, or even active duty, you know, depending on what their stance is. But the difference is like, you know, if somebody who's active duty is like, I'm not doing this, you know, which that has happened. Like, yeah, I'm not going to kidnap children and, you know, take them to a country they don't remember or have never, you know, have no memory of being in, or, you know, whatever the case may be. If they like, you know, the chances of like something can actually happen to them, right? Like they can
go to jail. They can, and sometimes have been killed for not following orders. Cops, if they don't follow orders, nothing happens, right? Like they have like, I can't remember the exact term, but like they have the ability to like, I'm not going to do that, you know? And they just don't.
And yet, yeah.
Right. Like, but they want to go and arrest homeless people.
Yeah.
They want to go and harm trans and gay people. They want to go and kidnap children from schools and kidnap
their
adults
mom's
from
arms.
Yeah, right? Like
Pepper spray babies. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a completely different power dynamic too, because with people in the armed services, they are going out to poor schools to get those kids to sign up. You know what I mean? They are trying to throw out free college benefits, blah, blah, blah. Come and get it. Sign up, sign up, sign up. And oftentimes, depending on the demographic they are in front of and speaking to, that is their only chance to better their circumstances, help their family, get an education. Like they're not signing up because they necessarily want to. They're signing up because they have no other option to change their lives. Yeah. You're not seeing that with people signing up for the police force. People signing up for the police force, they know exactly what they're doing. Yeah. They know exactly what they're signing up for. They know exactly why they are signing up. You don't really have the same level of marketing to get recruits as you do with like the National Guard, the Army. They're marketing so often so much. I'm like, their rent is due. Like they are desperate. They are really trying to get them recruits in. And you know what I mean? They are so desperate, but you don't see that with the police force. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just not the same when people wonder why do you talk to the armed forces versus a police officer, is you're talking to someone who has absolutely no privilege compared to somebody who very likely always had privilege and could have been anything else they ever wanted to be, but decided to be trash and smack kids around and, you know, their wives, whatever.
Absolutely. Their partners. Yeah. Yeah. Because cops can be gay as well. Yeah. So, exactly. Whatever. Yeah. They're actually IMPD at least. And I want to say the sheriff's department has a shortage right now. Shocker. People don't want to be cops right now. Yeah. Weird. Like, that's so strange. Why would you not want to be a cop? That is total sarcasm, just in case nobody could pick up on that. Yeah. It's completely different demographic for sure.
I think I want to drive home with people who are under the belief that like cops don't love every aspect of their job or they have to they have to do it, you know, they have to follow these orders, blah, blah, blah. Anyone else in the entire world who strongly objected to what their employer asked them to do would quit. Yeah. They would quit their job.
Absolutely.
But they don't like wipe a single tear from their eye and get their paycheck and then clock in again. You know, they would absolutely walk away and quit. So it's the question of why isn't that happening, or why isn't what happening a good enough reason for that person to walk away?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and these are people who, you know, obviously not everyone, but like a lot of times you'll see like legacies, right? Like, oh, my dad was a cop, my granddad was a cop, and I'm a cop now, or been on the force for 20 years. And like you like this, you enjoy doing this. Like, you know, I don't want to sit here and like have a conversation with them and like, what do you think you're doing? Like, how do you think this is beneficial? And who is this benefiting? Because that's really the question. Like, who is this benefiting? But it certainly did not benefit Rita Hester, right? It certainly didn't benefit Marsha B. Johnson. Cops have never benefited me. They've never done you know, I've definitely, as being in the party, but just in general, you know, as a Black person, like all of my memories with cops have been terrifying. Like even before I like understood why I was supposed to be terrified, I remember being like, this is not a safe person, right? Like, and kids are smart. Like people don't think that for some reason, but like kids are smart. Especially me. I was brilliant. But but yeah, like cops have never benefited anyone, you know, at least under a capitalist like society, right? Like their entire job is to uphold the ruling class, the bourgeois, the billionaires, right? Like that's their entire because if it wasn't, you know, Donald Trump would be in prison right now, right? I know people keep talking about these freaking files, right? Like this would, you know, like we wouldn't have to like have little banners that people go to like No King's rally and say release the files, right? Like wouldn't even be a discussion. Hopefully there would have never been an island either, you know, like hopefully that would have never been a thing. But like you said, like that is their entire job, is to uphold the status quo as it is right now. And Trans Day of Remembrance is honestly, it's an act of resistance. It's a very like, you know, morbid one. But it's also an important one as well, to like remember these people who have been wronged by the system, who have been let down by the system in multiple ways, right? It's never just one, right? But like have been let down by the system. And then a lot of times I guarantee you most people who are going to be on that list this year, if not all, have been let down by the cops as well.
Yeah, I recall when I helped put on a radical drag show. I believe it was Jack Offerman. They performed and they had like the longest song they could have chose. And it was a slideshow of all the transgendered people who had been murdered, I think, so far this year. And they had to put multiple people on each side or it wouldn't have worked out. And even with that, they couldn't cover everybody because there was just the mass amount of people who died was so great. And, you know, everybody was crying, you know, it was really something to physically see. A lot of people had like faces to their pictures. Not everyone did. It leaves you to wonder like why, you know what I mean? It didn't cover everybody that was missing. You know, it was just a long list. And that's the reality that they have to live with. But also they waking up every day and still going is like a massive act of resistance.
Absolutely.
A massive act of resistance.
Absolutely. One of the most powerful things I think about, if you've never been to a Trans Day of Remembrance, like, I don't want to say service, but, you know, if you've never been to one, one of the most important parts of it is reading all of the names, which is like, as someone who, you know, honors my ancestors, like that is important, right? Is to like read their names and say their names to remind them and their spirit and to invoke their spirit that like they have not been forgotten and they will not be forgotten either. And you know, it's, man, I wasn't able to go to that, but like, I can't imagine like seeing their faces in addition to that. And sometimes we, you know, depending on who's putting on a TDOR, you know, service, like they will have pictures as well, but like seeing their faces and like, it is sad, you know, and it's okay to be, it's actually more than sad, but like, it's okay to feel that emotion. It's okay to, here I go being a therapist, but it is okay to like feel that emotion and be upset and, you know, whatever, and angry, you know, rightfully so. All of those feelings are valid. And also like, it's a reminder to like, keep it pushing, right? Like we do not have the luxury of sitting in that sadness, you know, like we can still be sad and continue on and continue to like live and make sure that their memories are not in vain. You know? For sure. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Brooke. Any last thoughts, feelings? It got real emotional there at the end. Any last parting words before we?
So my parting words are going to be that Pride was birthed by a Black trans woman. We saw that in 1969. It came to Indy in the 80s. It's still going on to this day. But trans people have always existed. There is well-documented history that they have been a part of our society as long as we've had society. You know, it's always been real. It's always been a thing. Don't let anybody convince you that you're not real or that you are some sort of illness when the real illness is capitalism. The real disease is capitalism, and what it makes all of us go through, all of our struggles are connected. So capitalism is the real disease, and we will overcome it with struggle together.
And socialism is the cure.
Socialism is the cure.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate you. And we will be right back after this short break.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans people are no strangers to police and right-wing violence.
I have been beaten. I have had my nose broken. I have been thrown in jail. I have lost my job. I have lost my apartment for gay liberation.
And we're back. And I'd like to thank my comrade for coming out to the show and talking to us about just a sliver of trans history and Trans Day of Remembrance. All right, Danny. So who gets today's Circle City shout out?
So today's Circle City shout out goes to Leon Benson. So Leon Benson spent almost 25 years in prison, 10 of them in solitary confinement. If you didn't know, that is actually considered a human rights abuse by the international community. But shocker, United States uses it pretty frequently. And he was in prison for the August 8th, 1998 murder of Casey Schoen in downtown Indianapolis. So, which he did not commit. He wasn't even there. So when he was 47 years old, Leon walked out of the notorious Pendleton prison on March 9th, 2023 as a free man, exonerated on all charges. So in the almost 3 years since he was exonerated, Leon has spent his life dedicated to helping folks just like him, people who have had their lives taken from them by the incarceral system. Leon is doing a ton of work for the community, including being on the board for Hear Her Voice, along with myself. If you don't know, Hear Her Voice is a self-help resource and crisis intervention community where we offer services such as job readiness preparation, addiction support, youth engagement, mental health services, and reentry assistance. When you ask Leon, or LB, he goes by LB a lot, but when you ask LB why is he not spending his time trying to forget about the atrocities that, you know, happened to him, why is he not spending it just making music, which he's a phenomenal artist as well. And he's answered in the past and saying, like, you think I'm going to leave my brothers after I've spent 25 years in those cages to rot when I know firsthand what it looks like, which is a huge thing, right? To go through that when you didn't do anything, right? I can't imagine being in prison at all, but being in prison for something that he didn't even do. He has sued Marion County also, just throwing that out there as well. But, you know, incarcerated people are the most vulnerable of our class. I think about Shaka Shakur. I think about Kofi Ajabu, Vernon T. Bateman, and so many others, and the atrocities that they go through being under the thumb of this country, even more so than the rest of us. And to have someone like Leon who has experienced that, and instead of letting that discourage him, he has allowed that experience to, awaken him, to invigorate him, to help those who are in similar situations, is truly awe-inspiring. The Indy branch of the Party for Socialism and Liberation has a long history with Leon, going as far back as 2021, which was 2 years before he was incarcerated. One of our first experiences was rallying for his freedom and clemency. And so it was a huge deal to have his 1 year celebration at the Indy Liberation Center. And then we helped celebrate his 2nd year exoneration as well. And maybe jumping the gun, but I'm sure we're going to help at least with the 3rd year as well. And for sure. He's a reminder that, what can be done for others, 25 years incarcerated for something he didn't do. And he's out, he's exonerated. And, that can be done for Vernon. That can be done for Shaka. That can be done for Kofi. So shout out to Leon Benson for being an inspiration, a comrade, and being a torchbearer, a light in the darkness for so many others.
Yes, shout out to Leon Benson. I can't even imagine that, 25 years.
Yeah.
But whenever we host his 3rd year, everybody come out to the Liberation Center. We'll keep you posted.
Absolutely.
And speaking of events at the Liberation Center, we have one big one coming up, which will be on Wednesday, November 19th. That'll be our Liberation Forum, which most people know is the last Wednesday of every month. But this month, Thanksgiving is going on, so we don't want to interrupt holiday or family plans. But we'll be doing that Wednesday, November 19th at our new center. And it'll be really our first public-facing event. So we really want to encourage everybody to come out to that. It'll be at 6 to 8 p.m. It's titled Winning the Global Class War. Long story short, we're going to just go into kind of recent developments in wars and kind of things happening abroad, like in Palestine to Venezuela, back to here in America, in Indianapolis. And we'll further examine today's version of the Red Scare. But that's it for today's episode of Naptown People's Radio. If you found today's discussion useful, pass it on, leave a comment, and listen for our next episode to drop. You can email us at producer@naptownpeoplesradio.com. The road ahead is long, but we walk it together. Study with your comrades, build with your community, and always remember, theory without action is paralysis, but action without theory is chaos. Once again, I'm your producer, Dakota Fronterhouse, with my co-host,
Danny Abdullah.
Stay dangerous, stay disciplined, and stay in the struggle.
We trying to create a movement. We got a chance to do something in Indiana that brothers like myself been talking about for the last 40 years. When I first became political and we was organized behind the walls in the 80s and 90s, some of the stuff that we doing now with the different programs and the different institutions that we have and things like the Indy Center is things that we used to talk about and dream about doing. And now we doing them. See what I'm saying? We doing it. And we got to keep that momentum going. And it's also generation. So as the next generation come up, you know what I'm saying, it's on y'all to take it to the next level and take it to the next stage.
Salute.